What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 17:24 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, Trump is just about done with his visit to Saudi Arabia, and what's interesting is while Trump was in Saudi Arabia yesterday, the Houthis launched 3 ballistic missiles towards Israel. They were all shot down, and apparently at least one of them flew directly over Saudi Arabia where Trump was staying. Okay, today he was in Qatar, so clearly the Houthis don't respect the ceasefire that the U.S. agreed with them, and they're launching missiles right over Trump at Israel. So this is huge news. We currently have some kind of a cyber attack exercise going on in New England. The Connecticut National Guard, FEMA, and various branches of the military are involved in this massive cyber attack exercise. Okay, they're basically training on how to respond to a cyber attack. And we currently have U.S. nuclear forces on very high alert for some reason for the third day in a row. 2 days ago on Monday, we had over 35 nuclear messages. Yesterday, we had over 40. And so far today, we've had just about a dozen in the last 2 hours. Okay, they've been going back to back, and if you want to listen to them, you can tune into my 24/7 live stream, which is on right now. But looking at the flight tracker, you can see we have a Cobra Ball plane in North Dakota, and the Cobra Balls are special planes that can detect missiles and track their trajectories. And what's interesting about this one is it's flying northeast to southwest in North Dakota, which means that it's actually looking up towards the North Pole, okay, because these planes have a side-looking radar. So they're tracking and detecting missiles potentially coming from the North Pole. So this could indicate some kind of a threat, a missile threat to the U.S., or it could just be a precaution since Trump is overseas. And if any of our enemies want to do something stupid like launch a surprise missile attack, nuclear missile attack, then we would be able to quickly detect that with this plane. Now, in addition to the Cobra Ball, we also have a nuke sniffer plane that's about to take off from Offutt Air Base, which is the home of U.S. Strategic Command. So this is very concerning. And then also we have a rivet joint, a recon plane patrolling Baja California again, which is very, very unusual, probably keeping an eye on the cartels in Mexico. And we also had 2 B-52 nuclear bombers airborne again this afternoon. One was flying over Louisiana, one over Texas. And then we also had this nuclear war command and control plane do this big square over the Central Plains states. Okay, so U.S. nuclear forces are on very, very high alert. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And here we have video footage of one of the Houthi missiles being intercepted right over Jerusalem. This is in Jerusalem, this video. Okay, check it out. You can see the Israeli Arrow missile flying up into the air to shoot down the Houthi missile. So you can clearly see the contrail here, and this is right in Jerusalem, guys. Absolutely insane, the times that we're living in. And if you didn't see my most recent update from yesterday, I recommend you check it out. We have airlines now taking out insurance for nuclear war. Okay, I've never heard of that in my entire life. And apparently 100 out of 500 airlines globally have started taking out nuclear war insurance. Absolutely insane. And I'm going to read to you a little bit more about this cyber attack exercise going on this week. But first I want to cover some other headlines. So the Iranian president Masoud Pezeshkian said today that Iran would not bow to any bully in response to U.S. President Trump's criticism of Tehran during his tour to the Middle East. He said, if Trump thinks he can come here, chant slogans, and scare us, for us martyrdom is far sweeter than dying in bed. You came to frighten us. We will not bow to any bully, he said on Wednesday in comments broadcasted live on state TV. Wow. Okay, so Pezeshkian basically taking a dump on Trump. Absolutely insane. And Iran is apparently offering only a limited period of restrictions on the level and volume of nuclear enrichment. The New York Times, citing Iranian officials, reported that Tehran has proposed establishing a joint uranium enrichment project involving regional Arab states. Interesting. So Iran is only offering a limited period of restrictions on their enrichment, and now the New York Times is reporting that Iran is proposing a joint uranium enrichment project. And the reason why Iran wants to do that is because if they have a joint project, then the U.S. and Israel is not going to strike all those countries, okay? And the IRGC commander said that Iran is ready for any scenario with the U.S. We warn that any military action will lead to serious regional consequences. And the commander of U.S. Northern Command said the U.S. could find itself in direct conflict with Russia in the event of further escalation in Ukraine. Wow. So very strong words there from the U.S. Northern Command commander and also from the IRGC commander. And Ukrainian intelligence officials told the Financial Times that Russia seems to be preparing for a larger offensive, relocating forces to key hotspots on the battlefield rather than signaling any readiness for peace negotiations. So probably what Putin said about a ceasefire and direct talks is BS. And from what I'm understanding, and I could be wrong, but looks like the delegation coming from Russia to Turkey for the direct talks tomorrow is going to be low level. It's not going to be like Sergei Lavrov or Putin. Putin's not going to be there. I'm pretty sure Zelensky's going to be there. Steve Witkoff is going to be there. Keith Kellogg is going to be there, but no high-level representatives are going to Turkey. So clearly Putin is not taking this seriously. It's just a stalling tactic to buy him more time so he can reconstitute and attack Ukraine further and take more land, or potentially go into the Baltics, or do both. And there will be no hot water in the capital city of Kiev this summer, according to the head of the Union of Apartment Building Owners, Alexei Popenko. He said they do not plan to provide hot water this summer. Interesting, probably due to all the energy issues in Ukraine. And the EU has approved the 17th package of sanctions against Russia, sanctioning 189 merchants. Wow. And last night, Ukrainian air defenses shot down 80 out of 145 enemy drones. Okay, so Russian drones, and 145 launched at Ukraine last night. Does that sound like a country that's interested in peace negotiations? They're sending 145 drones. And you know, we hear this word drone and it kind of desensitizes us to how powerful these weapons are, because when you think drone, we think of like a little DJI drone, okay? But these drones are massive. They're the size of Cessna planes, and they carry 100 or 200 pounds of explosive material. They're basically like a cruise missile. Okay, so imagine 145 cruise missiles going off, okay, in your country. Does that sound like a situation that is nearing peace or a ceasefire? I don't think so. And clashes continue in Tripoli in Libya last night after operations by forces loyal to the Prime Minister Abdul Hamid Dbai clash with those aligned with the now dead Abdel Ghani al-Kikli, who held enormous amounts of power through his position at the head of the Stability Support Authority. So there's basically a civil war going on in Libya right now. And Trump signed an economic cooperation agreement with Qatar worth over $1 trillion today. The U.S. and Qatar have signed a sweeping $1.2 trillion economic cooperation package with more than $50 billion dedicated to defense investments. Very interesting. The deal includes Qatar's purchase of 160 Boeing aircraft worth $200 billion and MQ-9 drones valued at $2 billion. Raytheon also secured a $1 billion contract to supply Doha with counter-drone systems through a government-to-government agreement. Both countries signed a statement of intent to expand their security partnership, outlining $38 billion in potential investments, including upgrades to the Al Udeid Air Base and upcoming air and maritime defense projects. So they're going to upgrade our base over there in Qatar, which is critical. But what's interesting is that we just signed a massive arms deal with Saudi Arabia. We're going to be selling them F-35s and other things. And now we're signing this deal with Qatar. It seems like we're preparing for a Middle Eastern war or some kind of an escalation, because we're arming Saudi Arabia and what little allies we have in the region. We're arming them to the teeth. But a massive economic agreement signed with Qatar, $1 trillion, absolutely insane. And Egyptian sources are reporting that America is pressuring Israel to accept a truce in Gaza with Hamas for several days. Apparently, also, America informed mediators of its opposition to expanding military operations in Gaza. So we have to take this with a grain of salt because it's coming from Egyptian sources. But if that's true, Trump is basically doing the same thing that Biden did with Israel, which is trying to force them into a ceasefire. And, you know, Israel's about to expand military operations in Gaza in a massive way. They're going to relocate all the Palestinians to southern Gaza and basically occupy all of Gaza and make it a massive security zone. And the U.S. is now opposed to that. Interesting. And the Israeli army issued evacuation orders for several areas in Gaza, including the Al-Shifa hospital, so they're getting ready to go in. And Trump announced the lifting of sanctions on Syria today. And Ukraine is reporting that they have not received any Russian response regarding Putin's participation in talks with Zelensky in Turkey. So Putin's not going to be showing up. I didn't expect him to. And Poland's defense minister has contradicted statements by the White House's special envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, that Polish troops would be involved in implementing a peace deal in Ukraine. Kellogg told Fox Business on Tuesday that Polish troops would be among European contingents making up a resiliency force west of the Dnipro River. Describing the proposed force to be deployed following a peace agreement, Kellogg said this is a force of what they call the E3, but it's actually now E4 when you're talking about the Brits, the French, as well as the Germans, and now actually the Poles having a force west of the Dnipro River. He said such a resiliency force would monitor any ceasefire. So Poland is now denying that they would be involved in that. Poland's defense minister said, no, we're not going to be involved in that. And the new German Chancellor Friedrich Merz wants to give Germany the most powerful army in Europe. He said that today. And Polish truckers have once again blocked the border with Ukraine. And NATO allies are working on an agreement to significantly boost defense spending, aiming to reach 5% of GDP on defense and defense-related spending by 2032. The proposal pushed by Secretary General Mark Rutte includes a 3.5% target for defense spending and an additional 1.5% for related areas such as military mobility and cybersecurity. NATO allies are working on an agreement to significantly boost defense spending. So very interesting. NATO is looking to boost their defense spending to 5% by 2032. They're going to sign an agreement on it. And there was a 6.9 magnitude earthquake near Tonga and a 6.3 magnitude earthquake in Crete, which is an island off the coast of Greece. It's part of Greece, okay? 6.3 magnitude earthquake with tremors felt in Egypt. And I want to read to you a little bit more about this cyber attack exercise going on in Connecticut now. Members of the Connecticut National Guard's Joint Cyber Team attended the initial planning conference for Cyber Yankee 2025 at the New Hampshire National Guard's Regional Training Institute in Pembroke, New Hampshire on November 13th to 14th of 2024. The primary objective of Cyber Yankee 2025 is to improve the New England region's posture in responding to cyber incidents involving the critical infrastructure and key resources. To achieve this goal, all participants at the initial planning conference worked together with various teams to define a realistic scenario, confirm participation, determine range and tool requirements, and build partnerships. According to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency, critical infrastructure and key resources support annex describes policies, roles, and responsibilities and the concept of operations for assessing, prioritizing, protecting, and restoring critical infrastructure and key resources of the United States and its territories and possessions during actual or potential domestic incidents. The annex details processes to ensure coordination and integration of CIKR-related activities among a wide array of public and private incident managers and CIKR security partners within immediate incident areas as well as at the regional and national levels. The ultimate goal of Cyber Yankee 2025 is to ensure that the New England region is better equipped to respond to cyber incidents involving CIKR, said Fulsang, a cyber operations officer assigned to the Connecticut National Guard. By achieving this end state, the region will be able to mitigate the impact of cyber attacks, reduce the risk of disruption to critical infrastructure, and improve the overall resilience of its digital systems. Cyber Yankee 2025 is planning to build upon the three core principles that have guided Cyber Yankee since its inception in 2015. Tactical level focus, a scenario built around the CIKR, and building relationships across the military, government, and private industry. As the world becomes increasingly dependent on technology and digital infrastructure, the threats of cyber attacks on critical infrastructure and key resources continue to grow, said Fulsang. To address this threat, National Guard units in Region 1 New England have initiated the formal planning process for Cyber Yankee 2025. This exercise marks the 11th year of a collaborative effort to enhance cyber defense capabilities and build relationships across the military, government, and private industry. Cyber Yankee is the premier regional cyber training event for defense, state, and federal agencies and key utility companies to rehearse prevention and response best practices. And unlike other cyber-focused training events that focus entirely on the threats against the DoD's information network, Cyber Yankee is one of the few military exercises focusing on critical infrastructure and key resources directly affecting the American people. Wow. So huge news, a massive cyber exercise in New England focusing on critical infrastructure lasting through the rest of this week. And last night we had a lot of reconnaissance over the Baltics and in Europe. Again, we had a NATO AWACS plane in northern Poland. We had a private recon plane in the Baltics. And then we had this AWACS plane in the North Sea just off the coast of Scotland, maybe keeping an eye on some of the pipelines over there. And then here we have a strategic bomber, a B-1, that was airborne over the panhandle of Texas. It took off from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live update. Tune into my 24/7 stream to listen to our nuclear messages and get continuing updates. And until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply has brought back their $200 discount on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the discount, you got to go to preparewithnyprepper.com, and the link is in the description below this video. That's preparewithnyprepper.com to get $200 off the NYPrepper Supply 3-month emergency food supply. This is freeze-dried food, so it has a 25-year shelf life, and it's all packed within 6 rugged, watertight buckets, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. You can easily fit this in a small closet in a studio apartment, and the food has all of your essential vitamins and minerals and up to 2,000 calories per day. So use the link preparewithnyprepper.com to get the NYPrepper Supply 3-month emergency food supply, 25-year shelf life for just $500. That's $200 off their normal price. So use the link in the description below this video.